Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time for the revived Esports Connection. The one show, the only show that shows you what's happening in the world of esports right here. Well, we'll call it the center of the esports world here in Orange County with one of the key players in this industry. A couple of the key players today here. Let's start with our host, Vincent Yard from Valhallan Esports-Lake Forest. Welcome, Vincent.
Thank you, Paul. How you doing?
You've got another big player here, so another big. I'm learning like all the old grandpas and dads here about this whole esports industry, but you've got somebody from Irvine Valley College, which is one of the bigger esports programs around, right?
Yep, this is her. This is Jax Jauregui over at IVC.
Yeah, hey everybody, nice to meet you.
And she said to refer to her as Her Highness, so she must be pretty big over there. I don't know. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, just to kick it off, I hope that not only you guys, but I hope our audience had a good Thanksgiving last week. But I wanted to ask you, because you're actually the program coordinator over there.
Yes.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? She not only is a program coordinator, she teaches. She's a professor that teaches esports. Amazing. I want to hear all about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, like, what does that look like? What do you do over there?
Yeah, so right now at Irvine Valley College, if you want to participate in our program, you actually have to sign up for our class, Intercollegiate Athletics 101. So it's just like any traditional class you join. You know, we have classes every week taught by 3 different professors. Oh. They have to do homework, which is surprising. And it's not just, sitting on their game and doing different things. We like to focus on the industry and how we can prepare them for jobs. So we will focus on things like, how do you moderate your own Twitch channel, your Instagram? Because, of course, they're going to have their own handle. They have their own brand identity. We want them to understand, like, in the real world, how do you handle that appropriately? Because that is very important as you get into the professional scene and everything. But we also do things like resume building, of course, just all the important business foundations, because at the end of the day, esports is another sect of business. So we do a lot of that. But of course, we have our teams as well. We support 5 teams every semester, or I should say titles, and they are voted for by the students. So popular one has always been League, Overwatch, Valorant, things like that. But we pay for their coaching, we pay for their jerseys, tournament fees, all sorts of things.
Okay, that's really awesome. You were saying you have 70 students over there?
Yes.
That's so awesome. So I actually just had a question. So what were those, like all those titles that you guys offer? Yeah,
so this academic year we are offering Splatoon, which was kind of a surprising one.
Oh, okay.
But we are in Southern California, and it is a bit more popular here, especially down in the San Diego area. And we also have Valorant, of course. That is our biggest title. It has about 3 teams. One is all female, non-binary, so we're super proud of them. We also have League of Legends, Overwatch, and we are going to be bringing on Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And then I guess that leads me to my next question. How long have you been with IVC then?
This is actually my 2nd year there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I've been on the esports scene a bit longer than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then, so how did you get into this whole thing, this whole field of esports then?
Yeah, I mean, back when I was growing up, we didn't necessarily have esports as we have it today. It was still a bit new. So I grew up just playing games casually, of course. I think that's how most
like
people.
Your average gamer.
Yeah, that's how every person in esports gets here. But yeah, I played a lot of Pokemon, of course. The Wii was out back then and everything. So I played a lot of that. Call of Duty entered my life when I got a little bit older, and that's where I was like, okay, I can dig shooters and everything. Played a lot of World of Warcraft, more than I should have, for sure. So that was my introduction to Blizzard games. And when I was in high school, Overwatch came out. And that was kind of my big game for my professional career. When I was in high school, I helped establish the program there. After I graduated, I went back and said, hey, I'm playing professionally now. Can I offer you coaching services? So I got into school coaching through there, and word kind of got around. So I ended up coaching a few different high school teams in both Overwatch and Valorant when it came out. But in college, I did play on the Cal State Fullerton varsity team for 4 years.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, you can actually be on JV and varsity.
Okay.
Yeah. So I played Overwatch for them for a long time. And then after college, I played it professionally for like a proper competitive team as well as Apex Legends. But it all started kind of just back in high school was the more professional route.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
so basically, when you were, growing up and everything, you were obviously already a gamer and everything.
Yeah.
But was there ever some sort of thing that you were maybe going into a career for originally, or was it always going to be esports?
Yeah, so I actually originally went to college for physics. I did study it while I was there, but I also ended up getting a major in business administration.
Oh, okay.
So that one actually helped me a lot getting into esports because, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of business aspects in esports that aren't just, being good at the game you're playing.
Exactly.
So that was able to help me out a lot. But yeah, originally I was in STEM.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, and then that actually made me think of another question. So, I mean, a lot of these gamers and stuff, I know a lot of parents that are listening right now. They're like, "Oh, well, I want my son to be a doctor. I want them to do this stuff." But a lot of them just love those video games. So, when they come to, Irvine Valley College or UCI and stuff like that, is there like a requirement sort of thing for them at least?
Yeah,
Or-
so that's a question I get a lot in my school inbox is saying like, hey, I'm pre-law, I'm pre-med. It's not really related to gaming. A lot of students will think like computer science is what gets you into esports and everything.
Mhm.
But I tell them like, no, if you're studying something completely different, there is still a spot for you in esports because we absolutely need it. Esports isn't just, the people on the stage playing the game.
Yeah.
Somebody has to set up that stage. There has to be an event planner involved. These teams will have medical personnel on file because the players will have health issues or things like that that need to be addressed, especially when you're dealing with things like carpal tunnel, which are, our football equivalent concussion for esports players.
Yes.
That's our big one. So we do have to have people of different disciplines and areas of study who still come and are involved in esports, but they're not necessarily the players themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring this up for the listeners too. If you guys didn't know, Jax was actually at our open house over in Lake Forest not too long ago. And I think I remember you saying, esports is just a big stage,
Yes.
basically. Of course, there's the players, everybody wants to come watch them, but it's a big show also. You got to
Yes.
have someone to turn on the lights, you got to have someone who plans the events for them and
Yes.
everything. So, like, when you start getting into school like that, and, maybe you're a gamer and everything like that, but there's so many different career paths, like,
Yes.
than just being a esports pro.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, esports has become such a big production. Like, way back in the day, of course, it was just friends being like, hey, I bet you I can beat this. We'll just bet like $10 or something. But now, I mean, we have millions in prize pools. Somebody's got to deal with that money. I mean, if we don't have accountants dealing with that, that's going to go pretty haywire super fast. So there are all sorts of disciplines needed to make esports work. And I think that's a big misconception in the industry where these people are just like, you have to be a player if you want to be
Yeah.
a part of the industry, and that's not really true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, in my personal experience, just coaching over there at Valhallan Forest, it's a lot of the players themselves, because they're obviously much younger.
Yeah.
They want to be that esports pro that they
Yes.
see online and stuff like that all the time. And then, but that's why we're there, because
Absolutely.
and that leads me to my next question for you is that have you ever, like, what do you think the steps is to, maybe you're 15, 14 and you're going into high school and then you're thinking about college now, what would be the steps that a player or gamer should take if they want to get to on a team?
Yeah. So just like you're saying, I mean, a lot of people will start out with that dream of like, I want to be the person on stage playing and everything. But of course, they do realize at some point that that is an exceptional job. You have to be superior, like very talented to get up there. But it is having that dream that is kind of the first step because you do have to get into the space. Esports is not a job or industry you will like if you are not involved or you're not interested in gaming at all. So you do have to have a passion for the game just to begin with. But after that, we are seeing that esports is kind of taking root in a lot of early education. I actually taught through K through 12. And the earliest grade I taught Valorant was 4th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's getting really, really in there. But almost every high school you go to now will have some kind of esports program, whether it is an official program or a club. They'll have something along those lines. So that's definitely something you want to join, just to get experience of being on the team. And I will compare this a lot to traditional sports. I mean, if you want to play for, let's just say football, right?
Yeah.
You do generally start in high school, maybe a little bit earlier if your middle school offers those teams, but you do start in high school, and then from there you kind of scout colleges. Esports does something similar, and we are super lucky to be here with UCI, who is the equivalent of like Ohio State for football, right? So they're kind of the big esports school here. But yeah, it's the same steps with traditional sports that you would take. You start from high school, you work your way up through there, you look through colleges, and you can get scholarships for esports just like any other sport. So if you're good enough, they will ask for you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, really. Like, it's just a crazy thing how, esports, I mean, because when I was growing up, I was just playing games and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but then all of a sudden I start seeing it everywhere on Twitch, YouTube, all that stuff,
Yeah.
and then that's when, like, around 2020, obviously COVID happened,
Right.
and then I started to see it go away a little bit, and then all of a sudden I heard about this cool thing called Valhallan, and then that's when me and my dad decided to open up, and then
Yeah.
I just think the idea of a little league for esports is kind of a good thing for these kids. I mean, what do you think?
Oh no, I completely agree, because I mean, I did coach for those little leagues. My high school students actually participated in the Valhallan League, so I'm
Okay, I
very
remember you saying
familiar.
that,
Yeah, very familiar with that. But it's definitely, especially if their school doesn't have a program, that's their way. That's their ticket into esports. And even then, it's just good for students to be involved in some kind of activity along these lines. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're just playing games and everything, but that's where we kind of make the distinction between esports and gaming.
Yeah.
Gaming is definitely its casual sister, but esports is the proper competitive scene. A lot of ways that I kind of describe it is, gaming is just you talking to your friends saying, hey, you want to go shoot some hoops this Saturday, versus I'm joining my team at school. That's esports and gaming. They're two different coins, side of the same coin, but there are nuances invested with them.
Yeah, I will say that I love the comparisons you can really make to traditional sports.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of these days I want to call esports a traditional sport myself. Because honestly, I think that's why we're here on the Esports Connection, because I just think there's that big disconnection between just parents thinking oh, it's just a game, like they it's a distraction.
Yeah.
So if you were in front of a parent or something like that, what would you try to say to them if they were in that mindset for those kids?
Yeah, so I know one thing that parents like to hear is that first, scholarships, of course, but we've kind of already established that. But yeah, career paths, those are a big one. And I've actually seen a parent actively steer their kid away from our booth because they just thought it was gaming, and I was like, oh, okay.
I feel that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of a talk right now. But there are definitely a lot of career paths. Like we were talking earlier, you don't have to be just the gamer to be in the esports industry. So even if they still, like I said, have that passion for gaming, but they want to go study something completely seemingly unrelated, they still have a place in the industry, and we definitely need them, and I promise they will make good money.
Yeah.
Because I mean, esports took off, especially during COVID, because that was pretty much the only sport you could watch. We don't have to have an arena or a playing field, so we were able to just tune in online and keep going.
Yeah.
So that was definitely something that changed. But another thing is, like, they do get practical skills out of being on an esports team.
Exactly.
Because just like you would with a traditional sport, there's practice times you have to make, you have to schedule your own things, train on your own. You do get a lot of communication skills. I promise that's a huge thing in esports. Learning how to properly communicate with your teammates is a super big one. And of course, just the other skills that come along with being on a team.
Yeah.
They're the exact same if you were to be on football, if you were to be on basketball. You're getting those same skills because at the end of the day, it's still a team trying to accomplish a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that actually made me think of something again. I love coming up with ideas as soon as I'm just listening to you. So take us through a day at IVC. Like, what do you do while you're there? Like,
yeah, so we actually have an open arena. We're super lucky. We're the only
heard of that,
community
yeah.
college that have our own arena on campus. It's currently closed, but that's just because we're moving. But Yeah, the students will come in and we try to encourage the teams, like, come practice on campus since we have these stations available. But our biggest popularity point is, of course, with the casual scene. We are open to all students on campus. So if they want to
Oh,
come in, they're allowed to use any of our computers completely free.
oh, okay.
So they don't have to pay like per hour or anything or per game. They're full access to our catalogs completely for free. So we'll be there and we'll just supervise to make sure they're be doing okay. But yeah, the classes are really interesting. So like I mentioned, we have three professors, including myself, and we all focus on different aspects of the esports industry. So I tend to focus a bit more on the coaching and the academic side, but our other two professors, one of them covers like marketing and social media, which of course is huge for esports because you do have to have some kind of online presence if you want to be found at all, really. So he focuses a bit more on that and talks about like what are the current events in the industry. If we were to look at this from a PR perspective, what would we do to handle this situation differently and things like that. And then we have our other coach he's kind of our head of athletics. He oversees our teams, but he also focuses on player health and mental. So mental is of course super huge in esports. You don't want to be going into a game like exhausted or pretty convinced that you're already going to lose it. So he focuses on that, making sure that the players understand that, yes, you still need to go outside and touch grass and things like that. But he also focuses on just game strategy and the game side of things as a whole. So overall, we kind of encompass one complete esports industry lecture.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously the mental part, that's a huge
Yes,
thing. That's what
yeah.
always catches my attention when it comes to esports is because, a lot of people don't even realize that you can just take yourself out of those games and stuff like that. When
Yeah.
you're in these, Valorant, for example, you lose like 3 rounds. But I don't want to get too confusing for the audience. I'm not
Yeah.
too sure. But it's kind of the equivalent of, say football, you go down by 2 scores or something like that. Some players will just start thinking they're out of the game already.
Yeah.
But, that's like you said, you got somebody there to take care of those players.
Yeah,
which
and
is
it really
awesome.
does impact how you play too. Like
Yes.
the mindset you have going into a game. I mean, just like anything else, really, definitely impacts your performance and how you interact with your players. I know, especially, it's a big thing for teams where if you have one player who's, always getting mad or always doing something like that, it impacts the rest of the team because they have to deal with that all the same. So if one player starts getting a little bit frustrated with the game, and because of that, they're not performing as well, now the rest of the team has to make up for that. So
Yeah.
it's a whole effect.
No, definitely. And that leads me to the next part is that I wanted to ask you about, because we actually had a collegiate showcase at Valhallan. It was kind of like a virtual thing.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like, wow, is this happening like at other places too? Like, is there showcases for this sort of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can find showcases at all sorts of places, and the kind just really depends on where you are. One super interesting thing about esports is that it has regional cultures and regional differences. So like I mentioned earlier, we have Splatoon here at IVC. I guarantee you, if we were on the East Coast, we probably would not have it. It's just because of where we are regionally. It's popular here. They play it a lot. If we were off in the East Coast, we would have a different game. They tend to like fighting games a lot more than we do. And that's just another super interesting aspect of esports is those little cultural differences.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely find show matches all over the place. I mean,
Okay.
like we discussed earlier, colleges will give scholarships and they want students to know, like, hey, we have a good esports team, and that's how they show it off. They'll play against other schools and students will come and see that and be like, you know what? They did do really well. Maybe I'll apply there. So it's a really big aspect of what we do because that's our recruiting method, essentially.
Yeah. So and then so that was the next part is that so there's like actual scouts and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
just like we
traditional
have.
sports.
Yeah, just like traditional sports. And that's going to be a recurring theme, but
Yeah.
I think that's just because it's always existed, but people don't really realize it.
Mm-hmm.
But we absolutely will go and look for players. That's why we encourage them to have good socials and marketing techniques because that's how they get found out.
Yeah.
I mean, these professional esports companies like Cloud9 and things like that, they will look for players through media and through different methods such as that. So we encourage them to, be on their best behavior.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Of course. If you're trying to get into college, get that career, you got to have that good, resume.
Yeah,
Basically.
absolutely.
So, and then because Valhallan actually partners with Stay Plugged In. I'm sure you're familiar with that, obviously. But that one, like once they become of age and they want to go down this path for this stuff, we actually upload their resume and stuff like that. It sounds like a crazy thing,
Yeah.
but it's a real thing, which is so awesome to see. And just the world of esports in general is like, it just keeps growing and growing.
Absolutely.
And I just think that I'm so glad that you were able to come on here today and kind of
so
show a
much.
lot of light on that. And but I'm a little bit, I get a little bit confused actually, because me as a coach every week, I have to, see how these kids are doing, how they're doing in school and stuff like that. And it's such a cool thing to still realize that that's at the college level as well.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing, like you said, that's super important. One concern I get from parents is, if they're involved in this, it's going to impact their academics. And I actually was a part of a research group I headed doing just that, looking into like how does being involved in esports impact academics. And we pretty much found the exact opposite of what parents worry about. Just like you can expect from any other club, if you are fostering an environment where they look forward to going to school, whether that be for, theater or esports, they'll want to go to school, pay attention, and then after school be like, oh, okay, I get to, play on my esports team now and things like that. So it's surprising, but esports does a lot for students. I mean, and it just makes sense. If you look forward to going to school, you're going to do better. Well, you're going to actually want to go to school, right? So,
exactly. And so if someone, I guess even for the listeners right now, how would they get into contact with you guys over at IVC then? Yeah,
so IVC, we're pretty easy to reach. Our district kind of publishes our emails and everything. So if you look at IVC, you'll find my name under esports, but you can also reach me on Discord. My tag is Bosprey, Bossprey. So like you can thank you. You can just message me there at any time or email my IVC email. Either of those is totally fine.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, I guess I'll do my part too then. But if you want to contact us, see if any of the listeners at home have, any kids out there that are thinking about esports, joining a team here so that, one day they either go to school at IVC and join that team there. You can see us online at valhallan.com, spelled VALHALLAN.com. Sorry, got a little stutter there. And then I also have a Discord. It's just VIN07, VIN07. So yeah, but thank you so much again for coming on the show,
thank you
Jax.
so much for having me on here. Always happy to talk about esports.
I have a question. I just got to say, I am so impressed with you guys and this whole world. I want to thank you for coming back as we restart the Esports Connection. And I'd love to hear more about all those aspects. Tell me just 2 minutes being a pro. This is what every kid dreams of. You said, you very casually, I played professionally. What was that like?
Oh, it's a lot of work. I will say it is a lot more work than people anticipate. I mean, even though, practices, you'll sit there, you'll be at home on your computer or you're at an arena they might own. You're there for a long time, and eventually that does get a little bit tiring, especially, because you have to talk to people, and that's a different environment than just playing for fun by yourself. Some days we would have two scrim blocks, same day, each 4 hours. So that's 8 hours of me sitting there playing with my team, and if the first scrim does not go well, the whole day just does not go well. It is definitely a lot of hours.
Did you get paid to do this?
Yes.
And so where did you do this? Did you do it virtually, or did you go to an arena?
So a lot of that one was virtual, but we would compete like in person, and that just kind of, it depends on the tournament and who's hosting it. Some tournaments will host it like in their arena if they own one. If they don't, they'll host it online and just divvy out cash virtually. So it just depends. I mean, there's a lot of different organizations and everything out there, but it is a lot of work. It doesn't seem like it would be, but it gets pretty intense sometimes.
Like any professional would. And
Absolutely.
Last question I got to ask you, because I'm an old guy, I don't expect to see women running an esports program. Is that changing? Is it still mostly males, or is that dramatically changing? Because you said you even have an all-female team for one of the
so I mean, that's the unique thing about esports. Of course, it is male-dominated. That's just a given, but we are seeing a lot more women involved in it, especially because this is a very particular kind of sport. Unlike football, basketball, where you have physical different requirements, there is no physical requirement needed for me to play Valorant as opposed to like my male colleagues. I was on the same playing field playing Overwatch with all of my other teammates. I mean, there was one other woman on my team with me. We were all on the same playing field because we had access to our computers, we had access to our peripherals and everything. There was no like, you know, you have to be a bit taller to play this, or you have to be stronger to play this. And I think that's something very unique about esports. It is a much more inclusive environment inherently, so you will see a lot more women than you would in any other sport.
Well, I hope to see more of all of that as we continue the Esports Connection here. Brought to you by Valhallan Esports-Lake Forest. Let's do a quick commercial. Where are you guys located at, Vincent?
We're located off of Ridge Route in Muirlands. It's a 24331 Muirlands Boulevard, Suite D.
And it's an actual arena, like you guys play stations and all that stuff?
We got 25 stations in there, and they get filled up on a lot of days. We're still building our Overwatch and Valorant team, so any gamers out there want to join
Looking
those
to
teams.
join. And how many on a team, and how long does the season last?
So right now we're in our season, and it actually consists about 7 weeks, and then we're going to have a shorter one next month. It's going to be 4 weeks, and we have it's a 5-man team or 5-woman team. Sorry,
5-person team. There you go.
5-person team. Yes.
And in IVC, do you follow a similar calendar, or is it you make up
ours
your
is
own?
a little bit different, but most of them follow the same format, just like that, where you'll have about 7 weeks throughout the main semester, and then a 4-week summer or winter series. So a lot of them follow a similar format, but it also kind of just depends on the tournament and the game. Like I mentioned earlier, they all have different cultures.
Okay, give us a website for IVC one more time here. How do they something quick they can find you guys on?
IVC.edu.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And Vince, your email?
Yeah.
Website?
Website. I'll say it right this time. VALHALLAN.com. And you just type in Lake Forest on the little like search bar, and then you'll see us right there.
Part of the appeal of listening to a podcast is taking you into a world you've never seen before. This is clearly a world at my age, old grandpa, I know nothing about, but my grandkids are into it, my son-in-law's into it, and I can't believe how big this has become at the community level, community college level, the grassroots level, and you guys are a big part of it. So thanks for coming on. Hope to hear more.
Thank you so much.
And thank you again, Jax.
Okay. Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time to the Esports Connection. We're going to connect you with what's happening in the world of esports. And believe me, there's a lot happening in this world of Orange County. Brought to you by Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.